Tea, a simple leaf that once grew wild in the mountains of China, has become one of humanity's greatest obsessions. It has sparked wars, built empires, driven economies, and defined cultures. From royal courts to remote villages, tea has united people in the shared ritual of boiling water and waiting for its fragrance to rise. Yet behind every cup lies a story of discovery, desire, and power. According to legend, tea was discovered around 2737 BCE by Emperor Shennong, the father of Chinese medicine. One afternoon, as he sat beneath a wild tea tree boiling water, a few leaves drifted into his pot. The emperor tasted the infusion and at once felt alert and refreshed. Whether or not this tale is true, the Chinese were certainly the first to cultivate and drink tea thousands of years before the rest of the world even knew it existed. In the earliest days, tea was not the light drink we know today. It was bitter, medicinal, and often mixed with herbs, onions, or even rice. It was valued not for taste, but for its ability to stimulate the mind and aid digestion. Farmers chewed the raw leaves to stay awake, and monks drank the brew to maintain focus during meditation. By the Tang dynasty, tea had transformed into an art form. The Chinese began steaming and compressing leaves into solid cakes for easier transport. The scholar monk Lu Yu wrote the classic of tea, the world's first book dedicated to this drink, describing the cultivation, preparation, and philosophy behind tea. To the Chinese, tea was not simply a beverage. It was harmony in liquid form. During the Song dynasty, tea-making evolved further. Leaves were finely ground into powder and whisked with hot water, a method that would later inspire Japan's matcha tradition. By this time, tea had become a symbol of refinement and spirituality, celebrated in poetry, painting, and calligraphy. From China, tea traveled to Japan and Korea through Buddhist monks. In Japan, the Zen monk Aisai brought tea seeds home in the 12th century, praising its medicinal virtues. The Japanese transformed the act of drinking tea into shinoyu, the tea ceremony, an elegant dance of stillness, humility, and grace. Every movement was deliberate, every silence meaningful. Tea became a philosophy of simplicity. But while Asia perfected the art of drinking tea, Europe had not yet tasted a single cup. That changed in the 16th century, when Portuguese and Dutch traders reached China and brought back news of a dark, aromatic drink consumed by emperors. Tea first arrived in Europe through the Dutch East India Company around 1610. At first, it was a luxury available only to the elite, sold at the price of gold. In England, it was Catherine of Braganza, a Portuguese princess and wife of King Charles II, who introduced tea to the royal court in the 1660s. She adored the drink, and soon, so did the aristocracy. Tea became a status symbol. Fine porcelain teapots were imported from China, and serving tea became a display of refinement. By the 18th century, tea had trickled down from the palaces to the parlors of common citizens. But its popularity came at a cost, both economic and human. Across the Atlantic, tea became the symbol of rebellion. In the American colonies, Britain imposed heavy taxes on imported tea, angering the settlers who had no voice in Parliament. On a cold December night in 1773, a group of colonists disguised as Native Americans boarded British ships in Boston Harbor and threw 342 chests of tea into the sea. This act of defiance became known as the Boston Tea Party, a protest that would ignite the American Revolution. From that moment on, tea was no longer just a drink. It was a political statement. At that time, all the world's tea came from China. The British Empire was addicted, importing millions of pounds of tea each year and paying for it in silver. China demanded hard currency, not British goods, creating a trade imbalance that alarmed London. To solve this, the British East India Company began selling Indian opium to China in exchange for tea. The result was catastrophic: widespread addiction, economic collapse, and eventually, The Opium Wars, two brutal conflicts that opened China's ports by force. Tea had become not just a drink, but a weapon of empire. In the aftermath, Britain sought independence from Chinese suppliers. The empire turned to its colonies, particularly India, to cultivate its own tea. British botanists smuggled tea plants and seeds out of China, defying imperial law. In Assam and Darjeeling, they found fertile soil and the perfect climate. But to transform the jungles into tea plantations required immense labor. Tens of thousands of Indian workers, many poor or indentured, were forced to work long hours in harsh conditions, harvesting leaves for the British market. In Ceylon, tea replaced coffee after a fungal disease wiped out the coffee crops in the 19th century. There, too, local and Tamil laborers worked under brutal colonial systems. Behind every elegant British afternoon tea were human lives spent in sweat and toil. While tea was shaping colonies abroad, it was also shaping culture at home. In England, tea became the drink of the people, cheap, comforting, and social. It was paired with sugar, another colonial product grown by enslaved Africans in the Caribbean. Thus, every sweetened cup of tea carried the invisible weight of empire, connecting plantations in India and Jamaica to the drawing rooms of London. Meanwhile, tea had reached Russia by a different path. Caravans carried bricks of compressed tea across the Siberian plains, a journey of thousands of kilometers. By the 18th century, tea was deeply embedded in Russian life. The samovar, a brass kettle for boiling water, became a household symbol of warmth and hospitality. Russians often drank tea black, strong, and sweetened with jam or honey, a custom still cherished today. As the 19th century dawned, tea was no longer just an Asian treasure, it was a global phenomenon. New varieties emerged: green tea, black tea, oolong, and white tea, all derived from the same plant, Camellia sinensis, but processed differently. The oxidation process determined color and flavor. Green tea was lightly steamed, black tea fully oxidized, oolong somewhere in between. Each region developed its own identity. Chinese teas like Longjing and Pu'er became classics. Indian Darjeeling was called the champagne of teas. Sri Lankan Ceylon tea gained fame for its brightness and aroma. Even Russia produced its own blends, such as caravan tea, with smoky undertones from long transport over open fires. By the 20th century, the world was drinking more tea than ever before. The invention of the tea bag, by accident, made it even more convenient. In 1908, American merchant Thomas Sullivan sent tea samples to clients in silk bags. They mistakenly steeped them whole and loved the result. Soon, paper tea bags were mass-produced, transforming tea from ceremony to daily routine. Tea houses became gathering places for revolutionaries and thinkers. In China, intellectuals met over cups of green tea to discuss reform. In Britain, tea rooms gave women new spaces for independence and conversation. In India, the humble chai stall became a symbol of community, where strangers could meet as equals. Yet tea remained intertwined with power. During World War II, tea was considered so essential to British morale that it was rationed carefully, and soldiers received it in their rations. In Japan, tea ceremonies persisted even during hardship, a way of preserving dignity amid chaos. Today, tea is the world's second most consumed beverage after water. More than 3 billion cups are drunk every day. It flows through nearly every culture, from Moroccan mint tea poured from silver pots to Tibetan butter tea that warms travelers in the Himalayas, from Turkish keh in tulip-shaped glasses to the British cuppa that marks every break. The world's great empires have risen and fallen, but tea remains constant, a symbol of peace, comfort, and connection. It tells the story of humanity itself, of curiosity, trade, conquest, and creativity. Behind every sip lies 1,000 years of history, of monks and merchants, queens and laborers, poets and revolutionaries. The tea leaf is small, but its shadow stretches across continents and centuries. So the next time you pour hot water over a handful of leaves, remember, you are not just making a drink. You are participating in one of the oldest rituals on Earth, a ritual that has shaped civilizations, toppled dynasties, and brought the world together one cup at a time. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment to join the journey through history. See you in the next video.